Hey everyone, it's Michael from Chess Lifestyle, and apologies for the very budget display again. I'm currently in Belgium, competing in the Bruges Open Masters, and yeah, I do have a camera, but it's more like I need to start preparing for my next opponent. But I still want to make some content, so just gonna have to, bear with the budget display. But yeah, what I really wanted to get into today was the fact that everyone can play a bad game of chess. And particularly today has been an interesting one for me because it was a double round. And as you can see, I played rounds 2 and 3 today, both against FIDE Masters. And in the morning, I had a really great game. I had the white pieces and I played um, some really exciting prep that I've been working on with a couple friends in the wing gambit. And yeah, I really like once I was out of prep, I really kept the pressure on well, and I played a really good attacking game, and eventually my opponent cracked under the pressure and I won. So that was really awesome. But actually, for today's video, I didn't want to show you that game. Maybe, maybe I can show you if people really want to see it. But in fact, I wanted to show you my round 3 game where I lost in the most horrible fashion. And it was just like countless mistakes, one piled on top of another, to the point where I really didn't actually want to make a video on this game. But I was talking in the Discord on the chess chat, and even though I guess it's like chess lifestyle community, it's really become more of like a kind of like just a real family kind of setting. So, I was talking about like my problems and other people were talking about their own chess problems. And we basically concluded that it actually might be quite useful for people to just have a listen to what my mistakes were so that you guys at home can also avoid playing such disastrous chess. So I haven't inputted the game, but I'm just gonna go do that here. So it was a Sicilian, and I had seen that my well, this was round 3, and I had about 20 minutes to prep. Like the pairings really came out just before. So with only 20 minutes to prep, you can't really open up your chess base, look at your opening files. You have to just take a glance at their online profile. If you just type in their name and type chess afterwards, you can get a few games online. And what I was mainly looking for was just trying to get a general feel of the guy's openings, um, and also what kind of player he was. And to be honest, I was kind of with friends. I couldn't really do it properly, so I didn't really get that feeling of what kind of player he was, which probably could have been quite useful. But I did notice that he was playing many different Sicilians. So he had played the Open Sicilian, he had played the Closed Sicilian, he'd played Rosalimo. So it felt like he wasn't too set on a particular type of Sicilian. So I think that's quite useful in knowing how you can play against that player. So for instance, after bishop b5, I played knight f6, which is a sideline of the Rosalimo. If we check the database here, knight f6 is the 4th most common move. It's definitely a line, but it's definitely less common. So my opponent actually said that he was out of prep already, which, going by his opening choices against the Sicilian, it kind of makes sense. So I think if you are a more experienced player and you have some kind of um, really nicely prepared sideline, if your opponent doesn't seem like an opening expert in that particular line, you can probably get away with it. So yeah, I played knight f6, and my opponent actually opted for a line that he had seen Eric Rosen play. And after queen c7, which is the main move, here actually you see these are top games played by um, 2,500 plus players. And what my opponent played was knight d5. And you see this huge 71%, but there's only 7 games. So it's probably quite skewed, this data. And definitely, I am much more commonly seen castles, bishop takes c6, and I'd never really come across this knight d5 in this exact position. So already I was out of book here, and all I could think of was, hey, there must be an issue with this move. Otherwise, it would be played much more often. And the only move I could imagine that would be somewhat uh, disputing it or refuting it would be to take the knight, because I feel like any queen b8, you're kind of concessing and just saying, right, okay, he's improved his knight, and we've had to waste another tempo anyway with our queen, so that can't be good. So I took the knight, which is supposedly what the engine suggests. And I think at this point, this is the first critical moment where I already made a mistake. And the problem is here, I've got way too much choice. I've actually got 6 different squares my knight can legally move to. And really unusually, every square actually may have some logic to it. So I actually burnt a fair amount of time trying to decide where to put the knight, and I ended up not putting it on the best square anyway. So I think what I'm realizing about me as a player is that actually when I get more choice, I tend to make more mistakes. And I think that is just quite natural for anyone who's not that experienced. Like, okay, I'm relatively experienced, but let's say a grandmaster would thrive in a position with lots of choice because he will find the correct choice and his opponents probably won't. Whereas for me, I think I'm much better when there's like one obvious move in the position. It may be hard to find, but okay, that just contradicted itself. I mean, like when there's one plan or one move that might be difficult to find, but if you find it, you can play it. And I think here, yeah, this was already a sign of one of my weaknesses where I just got too much choice. So I ended up playing knight e5. My logic was that, okay, if I move anywhere else, I felt like my knight coming this way, the knight is a little bit offside. If the knight goes all the way back, then I'm undeveloping and white has 2 pieces developed. I didn't really like the option of just allowing him to take, because I guess my pawns are doubled too, and I felt like that position might just be even. But I wanted to play for a kind of imbalance in structure, so I kind of left me with this knight e5 move. That was the logic I came to about it. But I think it's just kind of a target on this square, and if I ever take the knight on f3, I'm helping white develop his queen, which might be annoying with some potential threats down this diagonal. So yeah, I don't know. Like engine actually says knight b4 is the best move and black has an edge, but it's not so easy to see. And actually, the idea I missed was that after bishop c4, I just thought, okay, this is just a position, but there's actually this nice move b5, which I guess creates this imbalance. And if I'd seen this, maybe I would have gone for it. But again, it's like moves like 6 of a game, and I didn't want to burn all my time at this point. So I played knight e5. And after knight e5, my opponent castled. I didn't like how this pin was in on the position. So I played a6. And already at this point, I had kind of envisioned a structure. And I think this was already my downfall. By envisioning this structure, I wanted to go with a6, with g6, bishop g7, castles, d6, and b5, which is a very dragon-like structure, maybe resembles some kind of Benoni-like themes with a bishop on g7 and a queenside expansion. But in fact, this is actually the wrong way to go, because the point is, you see how many green arrows there are. It's just way too many tempi, and white is already castled and already fairly developed. So because I had this dream structure in mind, I was constantly trying to work towards it, and it actually limited me. So for instance, after the move a6, I kicked the bishop back. e2 is the only reasonable square. Otherwise, if he goes back this way, he's actually getting trapped. It's a common idea. So bishop e2, and here I wanted to play with g6, but what I realized was if I play with g6, the thing is he can play some rook e1, and if I don't want this to happen and have my queen exposed on this square, which I don't think I'm wanting, like maybe there's some potential tricks with my queen being exposed to this rook, then after rook e1, I probably have to take the knight. And I was thinking then, okay, if I'm going to have to take the knight after rook e1, then it makes more sense, instead of g6, which could allow him to take here and then play rook e1, which transposes to the line I didn't want. I may as well just take the knight first, which engine agrees with. So it's when you get stronger, you might just think, okay, g6, knight takes knight doesn't really make a difference, but there will be a slight difference to these moves, and it's important to be able to detect them. So I played knight f3. My opponent recaptured, and here, if you like, you can pause the video and just try and find what the best move is here for black. So, if I don't know, you are a reasonable player that is not fixated on a certain dream structure, then you may find this move e5, which I didn't even consider at all because I was so fixated on this g6, bishop g7, d6, b5 kind of structure. And in fact, actually, this whole structure, this dragon structure, is actually not good at all because despite it being good in some endgames, I was getting it mixed up with a different structure for white, where white doesn't have this pawn on d5. And the problem is with this pawn on d5, it really clamps down on this e7 pawn. And with this open file against the pawn, it's just going to be miserable having to defend it. And I kind of realized this and acknowledged it, but I just went along with it because I was like, that's the best I can do. But in fact, in this position, I actually have to move e5. And this makes complete sense because now there's going to be no more pressure against his backward e-pawn. Next, I'm going to be able to play with d6. He's going to have these doubled d-pawns where he's not going to be able to break as easily with the move d4. And my development is much faster. And I'm behind in development, so I have to be faster with my development. So this is quite an important move to find. And if he doesn't want me to just expand eventually, maybe even with some f5 if I'm feeling ambitious, then he takes en passant. I recapture, and I'm going to be able to develop my pieces, get castled, and not experience too many problems. This position is just equal. So, frustratingly, I missed this, and I just went with my g6 plan, and quite rightly so. Again, I kind of saw this move, and I don't know what state of mind I was in, but I just ignored it. I ignored the fact that my opponent had a move d4, opening up the position while my king is stuck in the center. And it's so principled. Like, I would teach my kids this, but I just wanted to believe that I felt like I had no choice. I had to go down this route, and I had to just hope for the best. But in fact, it's far from that. I really had options like e5, maybe even trying for like some e6 is even possible. So yeah, I think trying not to stay being really narrow-minded in chess can really limit yourself. I think my downfall in this game was really not considering my candidate moves thoroughly enough. Like right at the beginning, this knight b4 idea, I missed some b5, and this e5 idea. And as you'll see, there are even some more ideas that I missed later in the game. So really just carefully considering my candidates, which I think is something I'm not too strong at. Like I like an intuitive attack that makes sense. So I think it's a weakness I can see in my chess, and I either need to work harder at avoiding such positions or just be more disciplined and improve at this aspect. But yeah, after bishop d7 takes on c5, queen takes, and again, my opponent is gaining some tempi on my pieces, which isn't great. I retreated. Bishop d4, and again, there's a little subtlety here, where I can either choose to take this bishop, or I can castle and potentially go into this position, which would be a transposition. So my logic was that I would castle, because if he takes, then I'm trying to remember what logic I had, but the point is actually, in hindsight, I felt like maybe I should just take the bishop, because then that commits the queen to this square. And I think I actually found it very frustrating in the game to always have this as a threat I have to watch out for. And there's a phrase in chess called the threat is stronger than the execution. And I think that is one of these cases where I really felt uncomfortable having to always watch out for this. So that's perhaps an issue, but at the same time, maybe on queen d4 it gives me more options. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, it gives me more options. Maybe I have some f6 if I need it. So there's pros and cons to this line of thinking, and you've just got to evaluate which is more important. But here I decided to castle. I don't think it's such big an issue, to be honest. But after king takes g7, my opponent played rook e1. And after the game, my opponent was nice enough to go through the game with me. And yeah, he said that this move, just tickling me just to see if I make any mistakes. Like rook e8, for instance, would be really bad due to d6. And this rook is unprotected. So here, I think I did actually make my first serious mistake. And here I played queen d6. Now, the most obvious looking move is to play d6, but at this stage I'd already felt uncomfortable about the pressure that will amount on this e7 pawn. And I really felt like, okay, sure, I'm getting ready to develop this bishop, but it can go to d7 and f5. Both of these squares, d7, it blocks the queen. And on f5, I just felt like it wasn't really doing much. Like, this pawn is eventually going to move. This rook is going to be behind it, and I'm just going to be controlling some empty squares that don't really amount to much. So I was always wanting to play some b6 or b5 with bishop on b7. Maybe at least put some pressure against this pawn, or maybe one day even try and come to a6, where I thought it might be a bit more useful. But yeah, I didn't feel necessary to have this development, but actually it probably was, as you'll see later in the game. And also my opponent said after the game, queen is the worst blockader of a pawn, which of course I know, but I felt like since the dark squared bishops had been traded, my queen could be fairly safe here, and maybe it gives me some options of playing e6. So I had justifications for it, but I don't think they were too justified, because after queen d6, my opponent played c4, and you see how this queen again is going to be a target eventually to such a pawn move. And this queen is going to be able to centralize, and I don't know, it's really not it's really not great. Like, as you can see, like, this rook is not connected with this rook, this bishop is stuck on the back row, and it can't develop at all. So here, my whole plan was c4. I think I may have looked at it actually, and my original plan was to just play some b6, which is what my opponent felt like I should play anyway. But I was really worried about some move. What was I worried about? I think some move involving this line exposing. I wonder if this is even a move. Like rook e7, queen e7, and d6. Is this a move? With a double attack on these pieces? Like, let's see what the engine is. I can't evaluate it. Okay, apparently it's just fairly equal. Queen h4 is a nice move to hit c4. I didn't see that, but I think I was seeing ghosts about some ways to open up this file. Um, but yeah, I think my opponent's point is very important, which is just like I need to develop. Like, even if I'm losing something, like I just need to get that bishop out. And what I played in the game was a really atrocious move, I think, which was rook b8. Basically, my idea was, okay, I want to play some b6 or b5, then I can get my bishop out, and I don't want there to be any tricks on this long diagonal. But it's just way too slow. And my opponent immediately capitalized on this, and after rook b8, my opponent played queen d4, and here, check, here, this was my most upsetting move of the game, I think, because here I actually have three options. I have the move f6, I have the move queen f6, and I have the move king g8. So if you like, pause the video, really try and look deeply into each line and think which one you should play. So basically after queen d4, I ended up playing the move queen f6, which out of the three moves is the worst move and loses the game instantly. And the annoying thing is, I actually calculated all of them fairly well. And for instance, this King G8 move, which was my second most move I wanted to play after Queen F6, um, I realized it's gonna go pear-shaped. Like some C5 is being played, some Queen F6, and I kind of looked at this and I just thought this is utterly miserable. Like this piece is completely clamped down. His piece is gonna come down here. It's really not great. But at the same time, I still have B6. I still have a way to develop. I can still hang on, and it's a position. Like, I really struggle with accepting that I have to play a bad position, and I'm uncomfortable as hell playing this, but I really should just play it because the alternative is even worse. And that's the thing. Like f6 is actually also a move. I think I didn't quite evaluate this one because I missed a resource, which is the idea of playing e5. Like after c5, apparently there's some e5, which is pretty crazy. Um, White is still better, but it's not lost for black. So again, I miss this resource, which okay, it's not easy to find, but there's also just two moves. So it's just about opening my vision, and I think I just wasn't seeing such ideas. Like and Queen F6 is just really unacceptable to play because Queen A7 just wins on the spot. And I saw this and I still played it with the idea of, I think Queen D6, like C5, I'm probably uh able to find something. And I would prefer to try and find something than suffer a position I can see clearly. But it's kind of ridiculous because it's not even hard to see that I'm not going to be able to hang on to this piece. Like Queen C7 is just completely losing. What's the winning move? I mean, at the very least, he just takes E7, which is what I think I was worried about. I'm in complete Zugzwang. My bishop can't develop. My queen can't ever leave the protection of this rook. This rook can't move, otherwise it gets taken. And in the meantime, white can just continue to improve his position. Maybe he can protect his other rook. He can get ready to play d6 and win this rook. It's completely lost. So why did I play queen f6? I had a lot of time on the clock still. There was no reason for me to rush. But I played it because I couldn't accept a miserable position. And I think it's a skill that I need to develop, which is when I'm in a bad position, I need to be able to play a position where I'm going to be under a lot of pressure and I'm completely worse, but it's not lost. And I ended up having to resign like 2 moves later after c5. Like I can't even remember what I played. I played some rook a8 and he just takes it. I just resigned because there's absolutely nothing here, right? So yeah, a really important game for me to realize um firstly how poor I can play chess when I'm out of my comfort zone. And definitely this knight d5, I really was out of my comfort zone because I hadn't seen the move before, and it's not such an easy move to try and punish. Like I really don't think knight b4 is such. Maybe it's not so hard to find, but um, yeah, I think having options in chess can be really tough. um, and yeah, I just thought it would be useful for you guys to hear like my thought process going into those tricky decisions. But I think yeah, another really important aspect of this game was not being so rigid in wanting to go for a particular structure and trying to think about it a bit more, because I kind of just went for the structure because I was like, I understand that kind of structure, but I completely disregarded white structure. Like white has an open file against his pawn and a thorn of a pawn on d5 and a pawn on d2 ready to open up the position with d4. And these are three aspects which I completely disregarded because I was just looking at black structure. So yeah, some huge lessons to take from this game. I'll be playing a 2100 tomorrow, I think. So that's another great pairing for me. And yeah, hopefully I can really bounce back from this loss. But yeah, hope you learned something from this game. I certainly did. And yeah, I'll keep you updated on Twitter or Discord or wherever how I get on. And yeah, I believe Dylan is playing in Portugal on Thursdays. So some big chess for both of us here on Chess Lifestyle. So yep, that's all from me. And enjoy the rest of your chess day. So see you around.